Hey there, Talkin fight fans. Welcome once again to another episode of The Scoop featuring the champ, Bola Ray, who is going to continue to enlighten us with his great series on how the champ became the champ in the heavyweight world and the greatest of all greats, Muhammad Ali. And here's a fellow who I think it's fair to say upset the aspirations of Muhammad Ali one night and shocked the boxing world.
That's
Am I right?
that's that's an understatement to say the least. Actually, like you will see, he's one of my favorites. Not just favorite heavyweights of the time, or the decade, or the era, but more fighter of fighters. Period. He was a juggernaut to say the least. His physique was like second to none, and with the exception of his utter destruction by the hands of George Foreman, nobody else actually outclassed him ever in his career. He Today I'm talking about a former world champion who actually never had his hand raised in the ring as and declared champion in a world title fight. A multi-athlete, a multi-sport athlete who even Muhammad Ali claimed he doesn't know how to beat him, even though Ali beat him 2 or 3 times they met. So, one of those two wins that Ali was victorious in was deemed exceptionally controversial. Not only did he lose another controversial fight to Larry Holmes, but in any other era, he would have reigned supreme as world champion and dominated for a while, in my most humblest opinion. So, it's Bola Raymond Olbuale, and this is The Scoop. Born August 9th, 1943 in Jacksonville, Illinois, was an athlete juggernaut by the name of Kenneth Howard Norton Sr. Now, when I say an athlete juggernaut, Ken made the all-state football defensive team in his senior year in 1960, which was quite a feat in its own right, but then he was also a superstar track and field athlete who ended up competing in 8 different events and brought home gold in 7 of them statewide.
Wow.
Yeah. A new rule was created where in the state of Illinois, in track and field, where an athlete can only compete in 4 events because of Ken Norton. Actually, it's known as the Ken Norton rule. Now, this makes no sense to me in the sense that why penalize them for being, or why penalize any athlete for being dominant? If they can succeed at 5 or 12, well, why not allow them to? I don't understand. But rules like this and participation ribbons, for the life of me, just makes my head hurt. I just don't. They don't work for me. But with that being said, Ken went on to acquire a full ride scholarship to Northeast Missouri State University on a football scholarship. His aspiration was to be a school teacher or potentially, a police officer. But after graduating, he went into the Marines, and that's where he found boxing. Norton amassed an amateur career or amateur record of 24 26 fights, 24 wins, and 2 losses. He was also a 3-time All-Marines heavyweight champion. And then he turned pro November 14th, 1967. His professional career started out well with defeats over journeymen and built plenty, like a healthy record, to the point where Ring Magazine did a piece on him, making him the top boxing prospect of the heavyweight division, which I believe was a curse because, shortly after that, June 2nd, 1970, Ken suffered his first defeat with an 8-round knockout at the hands of Jose Luis Garcia. Who was Mr. Garcia, you ask? I don't know either. He was a nobody, and this is arguably the greatest victory in his career. So, yeah, yay, bravo. 5 years later, Norton got his revenge via a 5th-round knockout over Mr. Garcia. So, I guess the universe was set right again, but so be it. Norton was given a motivational book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which he mentions in his autobiography as being instrumental in his win over Muhammad Ali. Ken went on a 14-fight win streak now, after reading this book. Within the book was a quote which read, "Life's battles don't always go in favor of the one who's bigger or stronger, but sometimes it goes to the one who thinks he can win." Paraphrasing from my standpoint, this sounds like, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. And this worked magic for the man. So Norton had a hard time getting ranked fighters to fight him, but finally had a win over Henry Clark, put him on the world stage, and it garnered the attention of none other than one Muhammad Ali. Ali was coming off a loss to Joe Frazier in the fight of the century and was eager to get back into prominence with a fight when the fight was offered to him for the North American Boxing Federation heavyweight strap. This was a golden opportunity for Ken, because also he was just literally getting on the scene, on the world scene. And what a fight to be propelled on the world scene with. Now, Joe Frazier was a friend of Ken Norton, actually a stablemate of Ken Norton, and also had the same trainer in one legendary Eddie Fudge. Now, come March 31st, 1973, Ali marches into the ring wearing a robe that none other than Elvis gave him in some 6 weeks prior. This was a back and forth war between Ali, which saw Ali hit the canvas in the second round and breaking his jaw. Now, Ken, right up to his death, believed wholeheartedly that Ali's jaw was broken in the 14th round, or sorry, the 11th round for some reason. I'm not too sure what difference it made, but his face started to swell after the second round, so I'm not too sure exactly what he was seeing. Norton had studied Ali's fights and noticed that Ali had a tendency of overextending when he threw his jab. Therefore, he would pull his right hand back for added balance and reach for the combinations. Norton also said that he noticed that before Ali would flick his jab, he noticed that his left pec would quiver. So another telltale sign as to when the punch was coming. So anytime that Ali threw that jab, Norton would arc over and flick a jab too, which would actually land because Ali's hand, his right hand, was always being pulled back in a fashion which I call the bow and arrow. When someone's pulling a bow and arrow, that's what it looks like when a person does this with the jab and the right hand. Arch over for a more defensive position and also capitalize on Ali pulling his right hand back at the same time. This worked beautifully until the middle rounds when Ali got up on his bike and started to float. This made it difficult for Norton to actually predict when the jab was actually being flicked and proved to give Ali much needed rounds. But even when Ali was at his greatest, at his youth, whatever the case may be, he didn't have the energy to dance all 15 rounds. So tired. And last few rounds, he went back to standing and exchanging, which made the contest so much closer and hard to score. It was action-packed slugfest, and after the final bell, the judge saw the fight as a split decision win for Norton. Ali never wore that robe again. A rematch came some 6 months later, September 10th, 1973. And for the most part, it looked identical to the first fight with the exception of Ali not being knocked down and breaking a jaw and all that. Ali started earlier with the dancing, which gave Norton so much more difficulty. But Norton continued with his cross-shell defense and which made it difficult for Ali to penetrate and throw big hooks, which landed, but usually in non-vital areas. Ali stayed dancing on his toes, attempted to beat Ken from the outside. A close fight that really could have gone either way, but I have to give it to Ali by a narrow margin, even though Howard Cosell was doing the color commentary. Oh, dear God. And if you were to believe how he was describing it, Ali was, or Ken Norton is the best, Ali was was beating him by a landslide. Now, in the post-fight, Ali made the claim, Ken Norton is the best man I've ever fought. I find that telling. Norton was given an opportunity of a lifetime. The fight that he had been looking for, the title shot, the world championship against a newly crowned king of the big boys, George Foreman. March 26, 1974, in Caracas, Venezuela, the two warriors stepped into their office. The first round was clear evidence that this was going to be George's night. He was stalking Norton all over the ring and didn't take one step backwards. Ken took a beating but was still in the fight due to him backpedaling and his effective jab. But it wasn't enough to deter George from continuing to follow him. George catches Ken with a few big combinations, and Ken is more than respectful of his power. And you can't blame him for it. The second round was a different story. Ken begins this round with a wider stance and a more effective jab. And he's walking backwards. George finally catches Ken with a right hook uppercut in the middle of a combination that sends Ken Norton sailing into the ropes and is counted as his first knockdown. So be it. Seconds after that, the fight resumes, and George jumps him with another quick combination, which Ken is then flattened with a left hook. But at this time, the ref doesn't consider a knockdown. Okay. Even though it sent him against the ropes again, but so be it. George jumps Ken for the third time and finishes him off with yet another knockdown, which Ken does not make the count for. No. It was a telling fight in George's resume, because nobody ever did that to Ken Norton. Norton brushes himself off and goes on a knockout streak where 7 up, 7 down, including noteworthy opponents like Jerry Quarry and Ken's old foe, Jose Luis Garcia, only to meet up against the greatest one more time. Now, September 28th, 1976, Norton Ali III, right? I've already done an episode on this fight in my series of greatest robberies in boxing history. As I mentioned in the episode, I didn't see this as a robbery and pretty much saw it the way the 3 judges saw it, with Ali winning 8 rounds, 6 definite rounds going to Norton, and 1 draw. Now, that 1 draw could have gone either way. But the most noteworthy component of the fight, in my opinion, was that going into the 15th round, Norton's corner believed that Norton was so far up, so far ahead, that he should be careful. Take your foot off the gas pedal in the final round and pretty much give up the final round. Now, this made no sense to me, and it's arguably, to me, the worst advice ever given in a corner, because by this point in time, they had 38 rounds of boxing experience with each other, of which Muhammad Ali hasn't so much as rocked Norton once. Norton has dropped Ali once, broke his jaw once, but nothing has come that way for Norton. So why would they tell him to take his foot off the gas pedal? And when it's happening, I don't know, man. Like, 2 of the 3 judges had the fight even going into the 15th round. Ken Norton took his foot off the pedal, lost the final round. 2 judges gave Ali an 8-7 win. 8 rounds to 7 win over Ken Norton, which solidified his win. The 3rd judge giving 8 rounds for Ali, 6 for Norton, 1 for a draw. But if Norton had actually worked, he'd have won that fight. Majority decision. He'd have won that fight. History would have been so different. I don't know. Like I said, this is arguably the worst advice any corner has ever given to him, and given any fighter. And yeah, I don't know how Norton didn't like just sue the hell out of him, or physically beat the hell out of him in the back. I don't know. Always said in an interview much later that he too felt that he lost the fight, that third fight, and was grateful that the judges saw it his way, the fight his way. He said that he just doesn't know how to beat Ken Norton. And which was an incredible statement, an incredibly telling statement for that matter. Post-fight, Norton lost motivation to compete and fell into a little bit of depression, and I think justifiably so. He continues on his career. He amasses more wins, only to enter into the heavyweight eliminator tournament, which he faces off against Jimmy Young, and wins a controversial 15-round split decision. He was now to face the winner of Ali versus Spinks for the WBC belt. History would have it that prior to that fight, Ali's camp was asked what their thoughts were about Ali Norton IV, and their camp said that they had absolutely no interest in fighting Norton again. But something odd happened. Ali was the heavy favorite, and then he actually loses to Spinks on his 8th professional fight. Spinks opted to not fight the mandatory fight, which was against Norton, and give Ali a rematch, which was arguably his biggest payday. So the WBC stripped Spinks, and I don't know of another time when this happened, but they just gave Norton the heavyweight title. He didn't have to beat anybody for it. It just so happens that his first title defense was against none other than Larry Holmes. And what an incredible fight that was. I think he got robbed. But it was a controversial 15-round decision for Larry. Larry never gave him a rematch and just ran with that gift, which I think, again, is telling that even Larry believed that Ken Norton should have won that fight. Think about it. In this guy's career, he's fought the greatest. Arguably won twice. Now, I didn't think so. I thought he genuinely lost that third fight, but a lot of boxing historians and whatnot felt that was a controversial loss. Okay. He fought Larry Holmes, who was right up there with the greatest, one of the greatest heavyweight champions in modern times. And that was a controversial loss. Muhammad Ali vowed never to fight him again, did not want to fight him, did not know how to beat him. His words. Larry Holmes refused to give him a rematch and just ran with the gift. I feel for this man. He was that great. I'm not too sure what you could say. Fights, and you won 2, was knocked out in Jerry Cooney, and now.
Seem to be having some technical difficulties.
Am I back?
Okay.
Am I back?
Yep. Get your kid off Netflix.
Yeah. Ken Norton was an outstanding, was my favorite fighter of all time, or one of them at least. That on heavyweight, and yet his hand was never raised in a world championship fight. A super talent and noteworthy in this discussion because even though all three fights were epic and close, Ali was given the nod in two of them. Hence, another reason why he's deserving of the title, the greatest. After a series of strokes and failed health, Ken Norton passed away September 18th, 2013. The boxing world mourned the legend, with George Foreman calling him the fairest man ever, and Larry Holmes said he will be missed by everyone in the boxing world. Muhammad Ali, after Ken Norton actually had an accident, visited Ken Norton in the hospital several times, and their friendship blossomed because of it. Like, Ken was just beloved across the board, and he was just, like, not just a sensational talent, but a sensational man outside the ring too. So I'm really glad I was able to do this piece on him, and I hope it did his legacy justice. Thanks for the memory, sir. And with that, that concludes my episode. So if you like this episode, please hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell too. It's your boy Bola, and that's the scoop.
Thanks very much, Ray. That was amazing. I love these series you're doing. They're absolutely fantastic. They're so informative, so enlightening, and you learn so much because you see the seesaw battles that go back and forth between the various weight classes, even today. And yet so many of us tend to forget these mega battles that were going on that you're talking about throughout the 70s that pretty well started in the 60s, late 60s. It certainly went throughout the 70s. And these 4 or 5 guys dominated this sport. They dominated the headlines. They dominated the ring. And then these guys went back and forth and back and forth. And, to come out at the top of that, and to define Muhammad Ali as the greatest, yet you hear what he went through. You hear the struggles to get to that title of the greatest. It's truly incredible. It is incredible.
He was remarkable. He was remarkable in a remarkable time and era for the sport.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
because all these fellas he fought for. Think of the names: Foreman, Holmes, Norton. Oh my God! Like, imagine having to fight these guys.
Yeah. No.
Like, wow.
Like I said, if Norton was in any other era before, maybe even in the 80s, he could have reigned supreme. He beat Larry Holmes. That was I still think that was a controversial loss. He could have dominated the 80s just like Larry did. So I don't know.
Super good. Well, it's Friday, so I guess that was the last one of the week, and we're wrapping up our week. And Mike and I'll be on the air on Sunday, but I'll see you again on Monday night.
Will do.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Ray.
Cheers.